Brent Spiner reveals why playing Data in Star Trek. Picard makes him like Sean Connery. Brent Spiner has always been inseparable from Data, the iconic android he first brought to life in Star Trek: The Next Generation. For over 3 decades, Spiner's nuanced performance defined one of the franchise's most beloved characters, blending curiosity, innocence, and a search for humanity in ways that resonated with fans across generations. But when Star Trek Picard came along, Spiner was given a new opportunity to revisit Data in a completely different way, an opportunity that has surprisingly drawn comparisons to one of cinema's most legendary actors, Sean Connery. In a recent conversation, Spiner reflected on what it felt like to return to Data in Picard while also portraying new Soong family members. What stood out to him was the sense of longevity, reinvention, and cultural immortality that reminded him of Connery's career, particularly his time as James Bond. There's something about stepping back into a role that has already lived in people's minds for decades, Spiner explained. It makes you realize you're playing more than a character. You're playing memory, nostalgia, and expectation. In that sense, I felt a little like Sean Connery. Data's legacy and Connery's bond. The comparison is fitting. Just as Connery set the standard for 007, Spiner created the definitive version of Data. Both actors played roles that became far larger than themselves, anchoring long-running franchises that continued evolving long after their original performances. Connery always carried the weight of being the original Bond, no matter how many actors followed. Spiner experiences something similar. Every time a new android character emerges in the Star Trek universe, audiences inevitably measure them against Data. The two legacies intersect in another way: reinvention. Connery returned to Bond after initially walking away, reprising the role in Diamonds Are Forever and later in the non-canonical Never Say Never Again. Spiner's relationship with Data mirrors that dynamic. He's killed off the character, revived him in dream sequences, and even reimagined him through descendants like Dr. Alton Inigo Soong. Like Connery, he has been asked to put on an old suit and step back into a role, even as time passed and the character itself shifted meaning. Playing Data in Picard. Spiner has said that Data's return in Star Trek Picard Season 1 was particularly moving because it allowed for a true farewell. Data's final conversation with Picard was a poetic send-off, something Spiner admitted he never thought he'd have the chance to do. "I had always felt we didn't give Data a proper ending in Nemesis," he said. "Picard gave me the chance to close that chapter with dignity. But the story didn't end there. Picard's later seasons gave him opportunities to stretch even further, balancing new Soong family members with a synthetic form of Data that blended aspects of lore and B4. Spiner compared this evolution to an actor revisiting an iconic role, but through different lens. "It's not about playing the same notes anymore," he reflected. "It's about reinterpreting, reshaping, showing the audience how the character might exist in a different form." That kind of reinvention is exactly what Connery embraced when he returned to Bond with a more world-weary presence than his earlier films. Why Spiner feels like Connery. For Spiner, the Connery connection isn't about ego or claiming legendary status. It's about the odd paradox of time and storytelling. Actors grow older, but their characters often remain frozen in fans' memories. Connery had to embody Bond at different points in his life, and audiences compared each new appearance against the original. Spiner feels a similar weight with Data. No matter how he adjusts his performance, viewers remember the wide-eyed android of the next generation. And like Connery, Spiner found that coming back to the role later gave him new perspective. Where Connery added a sly maturity to his second Bond run, Spiner added melancholy and wisdom to Data. "When I first played him, I was younger, curious myself," he admitted. "Now, when I play Data, I bring all the years I've lived into him. There's a gravity there." Connery did the same with Bond. He gave the role a depth it didn't have in the beginning. Immortality through characters. Another striking similarity lies in how audiences remember both men. For many moviegoers, Sean Connery is James Bond, even though 6 other actors have worn the tuxedo. In the same way, Spiner is Data, no matter how many Soongs appear or how many artificial beings Star Trek introduces. This immortality through performance is something Spiner acknowledges with gratitude and a touch of humor. "I don't know if I'll ever escape androids," he once joked. But that's not such a bad legacy. The immortality also brings responsibility. Just as Connery had to balance fan expectations with his own creative instincts, Spiner must carefully navigate what fans want from Data and what new layers he can bring to the role. That balancing act is why Picard resonated. It offered fans closure while allowing Spiner to evolve. Conclusion: Connery, Data, and the actor's journey. At first glance, The android from Star Trek and the suave spy from James Bond might not seem to have much in common. Yet for Brent Spiner, the journey of playing Data across decades mirrors Sean Connery's.